everyone, it's Justine and it's my very first video with Happy Little Stampers and I'm super excited to get started with you today. I'm going to be doing a classic technique that is the emboss resist technique, and I'm going to be starting off using a piece of masking tape. You can see it's reused from a previous card, and I'm going to be using the Especially For You stamp, which I showed at the beginning of the video. I'm going to be using this flower here as well as the butterfly from this stamp set. I'm going to be inking them both up using Versamark ink. This is a glue-like ink that is going to hold embossing powder so I can heat emboss onto my card. So I'm starting off with the flower and I'm going to stamp it in a few places, and luckily enough my lamp is quite bright so I'm able to see the reflection of the ink on my card and I can see where I'm stamping. If you can't see where you're stamping, that's not a problem. All you need to do is add the embossing powder between each stamping and then heat it all at once. So you might have to do it a little bit differently than I. So now I'm going to add on to the butterfly here, and I'm just going to fill any empty spaces that I'm seeing after stamping the flower. I'm also going to make sure that there are no empty spaces by stamping slightly off the cardstock as well, so it looks more natural when I stamp it. If you stamp them all and you don't stamp anything off of it, it looks almost like it wasn't meant to be there. I'm grabbing a spare piece of computer paper so I can funnel the embossing powder back in. And I'm going to be adding some embossing powder to my card. So I have the embossing powder in a Tupperware container, and then anything that ends up going onto the computer paper I can funnel back in when I'm finished. So that's my heat embossed card, and then I just need to add some heat to my card in order to emboss it and make the embossing powder melt so that it creates a resist technique. You'll know when your embossing powder is fully melted when it turns into a white glossy look. Once that is finished, I'm going to take some distress inks and I'm going to be adding some distress inks to my cardstock. For some reason I cannot find my craft mat for the life of me, so I'm going to be using just my regular mat that I use, and I'm going to start off with some wild honey. I'm starting on my mat and working myself into the cardstock. I'm not adding any pressure to my hand as I'm doing this. This helps me avoid harsh lines, and I am going in a circular motion. I'm going to be adding a few different colors and blending them together to get a really vibrant and colorful look. I'm now moving on to the Twisted Citron. Generally I avoid using this color because it doesn't blend well with a lot of other colors. So I'm making sure that I have the wild honey right beside it because I know those two colors blend nicely together. And I'm also going to be making sure that the pink color is beside it because those blend fairly well also. The next color I'm using is Picked Raspberry, and I'm starting on the tape, as you can see that I have down there, and working my way in. It might be a good idea to throw an extra piece of tape on there so that you don't accidentally get some on the top of the card, because that would kind of ruin the white effect you want to have on this card in the end. I went back and added a little bit more wild honey to blend in that Twisted Citron. Again, it is a color that is slightly harder to blend than others. My last two colors blend nicely and easily together. I'm going to start off with some tumbled glass, which is this really nice light blue color. And I'm going to blend that into the pink, which is going to make a purple color, which makes just another extra color. So you don't need to have any purple inks if you don't have them. You can blend the pink and the blue together. And then lastly, my final color. My final color is Abandoned Coral. It's one of my favorite colors, and it's also one of the newer colors from the Tim Holtz line. And this is creating such a fun and vibrant look, and you can see how great that Especially For You stamp set is resisting all of the ink. And you can even take a dry paper towel after and just wipe over the white ink if you feel like it's gotten a little bit dirty with the ink, and it'll come right off. So now I'm going to reveal my masking job, and you can see how nice the bottom of the card looks. However, I do want it to stick out even more, so I decided to add some black accents to the card in order to make that color just really pop out at you. Now my signature look is very much white on white, but I decided to switch things up a little bit today and use the black to make that card really pop. So I wanted to add a sentiment to the card, and I just chose the Happy Birthday sentiment, and I also chose to add a small piece of cardstock here in order to frame in my white piece. So I stuck that down with some liquid glue, and then I stamped my sentiment on top. and it says happy birthday, and it's from the exact same set that I used for the flowers. I did have to go in and stamp that a second time because my stamp didn't ink up properly, or I didn't ink up my stamp properly, but that was no big deal because they're clear stamps. I can see exactly what I'm doing. So I'm grabbing some Tombow Mono liquid adhesive, and I am going to attach this to a black cardstock base. I think it just looked best with that black piece that I added to the front instead of adding a white piece like I normally would, and I do really like the look of this final card. So I hope you enjoyed this very classic technique that you might want to give a try again, or if you're learning something new, that's exciting too. Here's a final look at the card. And all the supplies used are listed below in the video description or on our blog. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I hope you have a great day.